Alright, work in progress 2 on the thing. Sorry, trying to get this on my camera doesn't fall. Like I said, we're going to continue working on the boots. So, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spray the gray. I tried to do that yesterday, but then I was like, man, this doesn't match what I see in Jason's photos. Because again, we're trying to match this as closely as we can to the Human Torch. Because this is going to be a companion piece to that, and I'm not sure how close this matches Jason's paint. It looks pretty good. It's probably a little more vibrant than what Jason had, so I'm not sure exactly his methods, but I used the colors he used. But like I told you in many videos, if you give 2 painters the same colors and the same techniques, you're going to come up with different results. It's just the way it is, because we all do our own thing. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spray the gray, because like I tried to do that earlier, and it just was gray. But in Jason's paint, in his photos, I saw a lot of blue, and he's like, oh yeah, because I sprayed the blue first, then I did the gray, because your base coat has a huge influence on your top coat. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to silly putty off this whole boot, because the only area of this boot that's going to stay this color is this area right here. I need this, I think this is going to go gray. I might do this part gray too. I need to look at my reference photos again. Let's see. I may have to call my client real quick and see what he wants to do with that. I've got notes. So basically, he wants the mesh on the there's no mesh on the pants. Mesh on the boots gray. So I need to find out what he wants me to do. Because that's a different color. I don't know. So I'm gonna pause and come back. Alright, so while we wait to hear back from him on that, because I wasn't sure exactly what he wanted to do, we're going to go ahead and get Dr. Doom's head taken care of. So I need to go get some gloves. I'm going to use the Custom in the sun again. And it's very messy. Be right back. Buy more gloves. My mom's out. So again, I like to use this. This will give me a pretty cool look to this. It's kind of like my go-to if I want a chrome or semi-chrome look. So again, this is very messy again. I'm actually gonna not do it on this towel, since I'll be using that as a work surface for the boots. Actually, I'm gonna try to be smart here, just totally get this out of the way. This powder goes everywhere. I'll have to wipe out my workbench after using it. Okay. So Custom Gen Sun Powder. Used this before. This is what it is right here. It's by a company called Wave. I'm not sure if I'm saying, I would say Custom, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but that's how I pronounce it. So again, it's a very fine, it's basically graphite powder from what I understand. But I've tried graphite powder and I don't get the same results. I think this is maybe just because this is ground so fine. And I've been using the same cotton that came with the kit for years. And it's pretty simple, you put it on there and you buff it out. Now you don't get a bright chrome look with this, because it's like when you use all-clad paint or any kind of paint, where you're seeing the shininess is actually the paint. So that's why it's very important that if you want real chrome look, your paint has to be perfectly glossy and smooth. So if you did this over like a white paint or a gray paint, you get a brighter chrome. This is going to give us kind of like a dark chrome, which is kind of perfect for this. turn off the autofocus on my lens because you can hear it. No, on my videos you can hear the lens trying to focus. And that's really about it for this. Now I kind of get this dark polished metal look to it. And I'll try to get the crevices a little bit. I'll get a Q-tip. Get down in there. Now, if you want to seal this, which I typically don't because it doesn't get handled a lot. If you handle a piece like this too much with this on here, this can rub off, but it actually takes quite a bit in order to rub this powder off of this. To seal this, you have to do it with a water-based sealer like Alclad Aqua Gloss or an acrylic sealer, so you don't lose the chrome look. Now, if you want to really protect this, you would do like an Aqua Gloss sealer, and once that's dried, typically overnight is what I do, then you could hit with like a 2K automotive primer, and then you would get a really shiny piece, and you would still have the chrome. Because if you try to put like a lacquer clear coat over this, or if I try to do a 2K right away, it would reactivate the powders, and it wouldn't be chrome anymore. It'd be dull. It doesn't. This stuff doesn't react with a water-based solvent or water-based clear coat. So this is actually this is actually done. I'm just polishing out even more, and I do that just to make sure that the powders are really sticking to the surface. But that's it. And then I can take my Q-tip, try to get any excess off. There you go. So now I put this back in the bag. I'll clean my workbench off. But I really love this stuff. I bought 2 of these kits because I had a hard time finding it, and it's not cheap. I think when I bought them, I think they were either, I can't remember if I paid like $20 or $30 for one of these, and I bought 2 because I had a hell of a time finding it. So when I bought 2, and that was 10 years ago, and I've yet to go through one. So there's plenty in there to do. So I may break this out when I do, because the Hayaku Shiki conversion kit that I'm doing for a client that I've been working on here and there, he wants a plated look. So I may break this out to do that. We'll see. But there you go. So Dr. Doom's helmet is done. We're just going to leave it like that. I think it looks good. Again, when he's holding it, the only part you see is the backside. So that part is done. And I'm going to wait to hear back from my client on the boots. And we'll come back. Alright, so my client got back to me, and we are going to go ahead and paint those areas gray. Excuse me. So what I think we're going to do, that being said, I think we're going to do first is do these areas around the number 4. And those are going to go basically kind of like the same blue I did on the Venom, that really dark blue. So I'm going to silly putty these areas off, and then lay down a base coat of black, and then highlight with that blue, and then blend it in. And that way we got a nice kind of dark blue there. And we're going to just use silly putty on this areas because it'll be quick. And I don't care if I get I just really need to silly putty up to this piping. Because that's going to get painted black later, so I don't care really what that looks like. I just don't want to get paint on. The area that's going to go gray. And I want to keep this blue color that we did yesterday. So this is where I like to use silly putty on things like this, And I am just so I don't get, I'm just going to kind of tidy it up here a little bit. This top part's going to go black, but sometimes what happens if you silly putty or mask just over it, like if I just kept that up there, I would get a line because there would be a thickness of paint on top of it. And sometimes if you're not careful, that line can come through on your preceding layers or the next layers of paint. So that's why I just kind of cleaned it up so it's just underneath that edge there. And hopefully that won't be a problem. Same here, I'm just going to kind of tidy this up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to get this all silly puttied, and then we'll come back and spray some paint. Alright, so we got those areas silly puttied off. Didn't take too long, maybe 10-15 minutes. And now we're going to lay down a coat of black, just as Mr. Color Black. Even though I shaded those areas yesterday, I wasn't sure exactly what I was gonna. I knew I was gonna go dark blue, but I just did it anyway. Just took a little time, but no big deal. Put this on light, 2 light coats. And then we'll let it dry for a few minutes, and then we'll shade it with the GX blue. Okay. Just like that. Maybe do a 3rd light coat. I had this sitting on my towel, and the silly putty got stuck in the towel and pulled it up. So I gotta make sure I get that back down. Okay. What I want to make sure is I don't get any black paint on those areas that are going to go gray, because, or that's going to stay that other blue, because I won't be able to get it up since this is a lacquer paint. It's not acrylic. The majority of the day we'll be doing these boots. And if I get the boots done today, I'll go ahead and glue them to the legs. And then all I'll have left is the stone, skin, and his eyes and stuff like that. So my goal is to try to get these boots done today. It'll be another long day. I put about 15 hours in yesterday. I was able to do that because I didn't have to get. Usually my son has soccer practice Monday nights, and I take him. And it's like that takes up 3 or 4 hours of the early evening. And by the time I get done, come back from that, I don't want to work anymore. So, and his practice got canceled yesterday, so I was able to work more, which I'd rather do. All right, we're gonna go ahead and just do another light coat. I've got this kind of over thinned, so it's not going on real opaque. On the prototype, this area is actually two-tone. It's black with a kind of a dark going down the middle, but we decided just to kind of do it two-tone blue on the boot with the gray accents and this part black and the sole black. I think will look good. Okay, that's got enough on there. I can see a little bit of the blue underneath this one. This is going to do a more light coat, just so it's an even undercoat. That's why I want to make sure it's just an even color. I'm not putting this on real wet, so it's not slicking out. This is actually a gloss paint, but I'm not putting it on super wet, so it doesn't have to be glossy. When I'm doing a flat or matte finish, I don't care about the texture of the paint, because be flat or matte. If I'm gonna do like a high gloss finish on something, I try to make the paint as smooth as possible, because then the gloss isn't having to do as much work to make things shiny and glossy. Okay, so that looks good. So we're gonna let these dry for about 5-10 minutes, and then we'll come in with the blue. All right, so I got some of my Mr. Color GX blue, number 5, Suzy blue, in my airbrush. And we're basically just going to repeat what we did yesterday on the highlights. And there's not a whole lot of highlighting to do on this part of the boot. There's a highlight right here. And there's one right here on the calf. And bring it up pretty bright, and then we're going to knock it back down with some black again. And a little bit one right here by the toe. Just like that. Same here. One more highlight comes up this way, because this is by what would be his pinky toe. Right here. Again, it's hard to see. You really have to move these pieces around in the light to see all the different shapes and stuff in the sculpt sometimes, especially when it's a really soft detail like this in the boots. So like there's a little bit of a bump here, and then it kind of fades away right in this area. So we're going to make it a little bit brighter here, and then bring it down a little bit, just soften it up. So now what I'm going to do, since we want this like a dark blue and not really black, I am going to fan this just a little bit. Okay, like this. And I'm just going to tint the whole thing a little bit. Now I'm going to go back over this with black, and you're like, well, wait a second, you're going to cover up what you just did. No, I'm going to put the black on really, really thin, so it'll have an undertone of blue to the whole thing. Just like that. Do the other foot. go. We got a little different shape. This puts in a different position, so we got a different shape to his muscles. This comes up here like this. Again, we're just going to kind of mist this on. Okay, so now right now I've got this kind of blue with black shadowing, but we want to knock this down. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my black and I'm going to over thin it. Okay, my airbrush real quick. And then once I do this, I'll let it dry for 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'll go seal it. Let that dry for 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll slowly putty off everything else and do the gray. All right, so here again, I'm going to do black. But I'm going to over thin this. A little more. So I'm just mixing it in my airbrush right now. I don't know my thinning ratio. I'm just kind of guesstimating. Okay, so I'm going to start with this boot because this is the first one I did. It's had a chance to dry down a little bit. Now we're going to go in here and just kind of take this black. We're going to knock down the blue. And we just go one coat at a time. Like that. Okay, so it's one. Two. That looks about right. There's one. Crap. So I got a little splatter from my airbrush for some reason on that. So I'll probably have to go back and do this part of the boot again. So I'm gonna just leave that to the side. I'm not sure what happened. I think I got a little paint droplet on the tip of my airbrush, the needle and it spattered a little bit, so I'm just going to leave that alone and I'm going to redo it. But I'm going to go ahead and do the second coat on this one. There's two. So now we got this really kind of dark blue highlighted look to this. I think I need a little more. One more super light fan of that. Stand up. It's a bummer that spattered on that one. Okay, so I did 3 light coats and then just a really quick fan. Now it's hard to see right now because you're seeing all the shine on from the lights, but once I flat coat this, it'll be good. So I'm gonna go back. I'm not sure if you can see it in camera. A little spatter right here. Yeah, it's a bummer. So I'm gonna have to go back and redo this part. So I'm gonna go ahead and, since I got black in here, I'm gonna go ahead and rebase coat this in black, and then redo the highlights and then the blending, and then we'll take a look at it. At least I know what I gotta do. So I'll do that, and then after it's been sealed and everything, we'll come back and take a look at it. Alright, so I sealed that, took the silly putty off, and that looks really good. So I'm going to let this dry another, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes before I put silly putty on top of this. It's dry to the touch, but I just want to make sure that silly putty is not going to do anything to it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm not going to show it on camera, but I'm going to silly putty off this part and this stripe on all the sides of the boots, and then we'll mist on that gray tone on these areas. I'm going to over thin it a little bit. I'll show that on camera to get some of that blue coming through. So yeah, I'll let this dry for a little bit, and then I'll silly putty off this area, and this area, and that area, and then we'll spray all these little textured areas, that gray, and then we'll come back once silly putty, and we'll spray paint. Alright, so we got those all silly putty, like that, and like that. I got my gray mixed up in here. This is XF, to me, XF53. Got this thinned about 2 to 1. Mr. Color Thinner. And let's start misting this on. I'm going to double check my edges, make sure I don't see any of that previous color. So make sure I get all the edges. There's a spot I saw. Good thing I checked. Alright. Let's see. Let's turn autofocus. I'm going to turn autofocus off, so hopefully it'll still be focused for you guys, but you won't hear all the clicking of it trying to focus. As long as I keep it around here, we'll be good. Okay, that looks good. Do this back side first. There's 2 mist coats. Two mist coats. Two mist coats. This will be a little harder because of the bend. So Jason told me he hand painted on the gray. I'm going to airbrush it. That's 2 mist coats. It's looking pretty good. May do a third. So I want to see some of that blue through this. That'll give me some of the shading. Again, just checking on my edges. Okay. That's good. Two mist coats. 1, 2. 1, 2. One, 2. Alright, so everything's got 2 mist coats on it. Let's look at this one. Let's do another mist coat. Yeah, see, now I'm seeing the color that I saw on Jason's. It's got a little blue tinge to it. Your undercoat makes a huge difference. That's why I spend so much time on the undercoats of things, because it has such a huge influence on what your top colors are going to look like. I may go in, once I take a look at this, and go in with some smoke and hit the edges a little bit and maybe the wrinkles a little bit. But I am seeing my shading from from the previous layers. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Let's get this one more time. I don't want this to go on too opaque. I want to keep it light. Trying to figure out a way to prop this guy up. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Okay, that looks good. Alright, let's clean the airbrush out. And then, actually, hold on. What I might do. How much do I still have in here? I got a little bit. Still quite a bit. I'm going to add a couple drops of black to this in my airbrush. I'll come back. Okay, so So I added a couple drops of black to this. I got a slightly darker color. I'm going to hit the edges a little bit. Very, very lightly. Very subtle. Make them wrinkles a little bit. I'm just adding to the shading that I'm seeing from the previous layers. I'm just bringing it up a little bit. I'm not sure if you can see it in camera, but it just adds a little bit more dimension. Like that. It's subtle, but it's there. Backed off quite a bit so I get a soft transition. And that's all we're going to do. So let's take the silly putty off of this and see what we got. Alright, so those are the main colors of the boots. I will seal this and then I will go in and start doing the piping, which is going to be all hand painted, which will take quite some time. But I think this looks pretty good. Alright. So let me go seal these again. We'll let them dry for 10-15 minutes. And then we'll I'm not sure if I'll show hand painting the piping on camera. It's going to be very tedious. So I'll hand paint the piping, and I'll cut in the soles and the top of the boots, just around the edges. And then once I get that done, I'll silly putty everything off, and I'll I'll spray this part and this part black, and then the last part will be the emblem, which will be consuming. There's quite a few steps to get those emblems painted, and we'll go over those after I get the piping done on this. So I won't videotape the piping or the top or bottom parts. It's just, there's really nothing new technique-wise. Ooh, poop. I fell over. I guess in a little spot. But this looks good. So when I come back, hopefully this will be black, and all the piping will be black, and we'll work on the emblems. I was just recording up my microphone. All right, I just recorded like 20 minutes talking without my microphone on, so I'm gonna start over. So the next step on the belt, I masked this off earlier, sprayed the black, and sealed it. So the next step on the belt, and this is the same step that's on the boots, so I'm gonna just show you on the belt, because I just sealed those, hopefully for the last time. They look really good, got all the trim painted and everything. It took me a couple hours, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours. So the next step is to do these emblems. So I kind of did these backwards. I should have sprayed white first, then painted the floor, masked that off, and then did everything. But since I'm an idiot, I kind of went backwards. So we're going to spray white, and then we're going to hand paint the 4. I guess just the 4 is baby blue, or if there are other think it's just a 4. I need to look at my reference photos again. What my client sent me. Where is it? Okay, so the 4 and the inside trim goes baby blue. So we're going to do that. So I got to make sure that I don't have any silly putty on that inside trim. And then we'll just touch up the black. So not the end of the world. But I do have to make sure that, I'm glad I checked that, because otherwise what I had silly putty would not have worked. So I need to make sure it's just on. That doesn't touch that trim. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect since we're going to touch up the black anyway. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to spray some white on this. And since I'm spraying over black, I'll have to build it up so it's not gray. Just putting on light. Hair right there. There was a hair, and I need to get rid of it because it's blocking part of that trim. There we go. There's that little line there, then the baby blue won't cover correct. I need white to get the baby blue to be nice and bright. Okay. Alright, there's the white. I'm going to let this dry. Then I'll take the silly putty off and I'll seal it, and then we'll put on the baby blue when it's dried. Alright, so I decided to try this without sealing it because this is the white's a lacquer and these are acrylics. This is straight out of the bottle craft paint. It's called Aegean Blue, and this will take a couple coats because it's just a craft paint. There's not a lot of pigment. But the one thing about trying to do this on top of this gloss paint is that the blue doesn't have anything to really grip to, since I'm painting on top of a gloss. We'll see if it works. Another way to do this would be a reverse wash with using an enamel. And so, and if you did that, what you would do is you paint the blue first in a lacquer, and then you would let that dry. You would seal it with a gloss lacquer, let that dry, and then the next day you would spray an enamel white. And then what you do is you let it dry just for a few minutes, and then you go with the Q-tip and some lighter fluid and wipe off the white paint on the raised areas, and it won't affect the lacquer. So you can use different paint properties like that to your advantage. I do it all the time on Gundams. Not sure how much of this you're seeing. It's very tedious, slow. Put a little water in this blue. I didn't put a whole lot. I didn't want it too thin, but I may add a little bit more. These will take a long time. So my goal today was to get the boots done and the belt done, and that'll take the day. And then my client sent me reference for the rock skin, and that will be tomorrow. Okay, so I think you get the idea. So it's not super neat right now. On the inside lip, they'll go a detail line of black, basically like and in the Gundam realm we call it a panel line, kind of a enamel wash. I'll do that with an Indian ink pen. But it's a little strip of black between the blue and the white. So that'll clean up that edge. And then the outside gets black, so that'll get cleaned up. What I can do is I can let this dry really well, and I can go clean up with a toothpick also. I showed you on the Venom. Let's go paint the 4. And the 4 gets outlined in black also. This is my guinea pig logo. We'll see how this one turns out, and if it works, so we'll do the other ones the same way. So it looks a little messy right now, but as we get further along, it'll get tightened up. Actually, should be using a slightly bigger brush than this one. That may change. Switch brushes. And I'm gonna add a little more water to this. Put a little more water in the paint. Should help even out my brush strokes. So I'm going to continue doing this, and then we'll look at it when I get done. Alright, I want to show you what I'm doing here on the legs. So I decided to go ahead and mask these off because the hand painting was taking forever to cover, and the masking actually went pretty quick. So I used my washi tape, which is kind of like Tamiya tape, just less tacky. And then I just did a quick silly putty around there. But I am going to airbrush that same watercolor paint. And since I got to use a little higher air pressure to get it to go through the airbrush, I just took a piece of paper, cut a hole in it, and I'm going to hold it in place as I airbrush my color on, just to help prevent any overspray getting on anything. So I'm going to try to get this to work. Let's see. Trying to get this paper to conform to a shape that does not want to conform to. Not gonna be neat. I just want to make sure I got enough room around it. Okay, so I'm just gonna do one of these one at a time. So I'm gonna spray this one, go to the other foot while this dries, and then go back and forth. Okay, so I have my craft paint and my airbrush watered down. I'll try to do this on camera. I really need to. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to put on real light. You can see it kind of goes on speckly. Increase my air pressure a little bit. It's pretty low. I'm going to dry this. You got too much water in there. So I'm going to take some of that up. Add a little more paint to it. These paints are really not meant for airbrushing, but you can airbrush them. I do it all the time. It's just getting them thin just the right way, just so they go through and they don't. Get a little clog in there. What I did is I put some paint in my cup to thicken it. I think it just went straight down to the bottom of the airbrush, so it's clogging it up. There you go. So I'm going to let that dry really well, because it's this craft paint, it'll dry pretty quick, and it should dry pretty evenly. I am seeing a spot right here on my tape. Came up on the number 4. So I'm going to hit that again. Alright, so I'm going to do that to all the other ones, and then we'll take a look at it, and then what I'll do is I'll let them dry for a little bit. I'll pull the tape up, and then I'm going to seal them, because then we're going to clean up the edges with black. This looks pretty good, so we'll do the other ones and come back. Alright, so the last steps on these logos is to go in with some black around the edges here. This was sealed a little while ago. So this is an Indian ink pen, and I use this all the time for this kind of thing. So I'm just going to go in here and draw my black line. And since it's India ink, so I just screwed up there already. Let's get a little water. It comes off. You want to get it off pretty quick since this is a flat finish. Typically I do this over a gloss finish, but it's no big deal. Just like that. A little mess up right there. to do this off camera for a second. I gotta look at it. I have to get a good look at it. I can't see it when it's in front of the camera. It's the same thing. I just took a toothpick and moistened it and took off that little air. Typically use a thinner marker, but this one I think is the right thickness for this application. Hands have been real shaky today, I don't know why. Makes it hard to do stuff like this without screwing up. My coffee should have worn off by now. There you go. Fantastic Four logo. Looks good. So yeah, so I just sealed the legs. So I'm gonna let those dry for 15-20 minutes, and then I'll go do the same thing to those. I'm just gonna go over this again. So I'm going at this two directions, kind of going at towards the 4 to kind of get some of this ink up on the side of the 4. And I also went towards the white, so I got kind of a little thicker line on the white. Yeah, that looks good. So I'll seal this one more time and this will be done. So I'll do that to the other boots, and then the boots will be done. And then I think I can call it a day. Not quite as long as yesterday, but still a lot of work done on one day. It doesn't seem like, because I've just been working on the boots all damn day and this belt. But still, we're in good shape. So once the boots are done, I'll come back and show you, and that'll be the end of this work in progress. And then the last work in progress will be the torso and the cigar, last bit. So that'll be tomorrow. And I don't know, depending on how that goes, I might get them done tomorrow. Who knows? So yeah, it's been going smooth. So again, once I get the boots done, I'll show this to you here in a little bit. Alright, and I'm going to call this work in progress done. So I got the boots knocked out, looking really good. Got the pants knocked out, went ahead and did the gray there, did the black piping. And so we're looking good. Another long day, about 13 hours of work on this guy. So, but we're making good progress. So I'm real happy with this. So that's end of work in progress number 2. Work in progress number 3 will be the stone skin and wrapping this thing up. So we'll start on that tomorrow. And as always, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.